foundation.
building.
And you kind of like filled in the rest, so it's not as much as it was. It was just a huge hole.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Maybe we didn't get the word out enough, between town meeting and late notices or whatever, but we have a lot of feedback on the survey for Main Street, and I appreciate you guys coming here to help discuss it a little bit further. And we're going to go over the results and just chat about some of the things I've learned about the community and what they want. I made a lot of phone calls to a lot of people, and some of you may be here, some of them maybe not, but I'll share with you some of the feedback, the good and the bad, the ugly, but all those good information, because it tells us where the pulse of the community, and that's what's important to all of us. So we have in attendance Debbie Cobb, which is Town Council. Tish is Events Committee. We got Danny Bass that is on Town Council, and Mike McLaughlin, Town Council. I'm the mayor. We got Janet Prentice, who's on Planning. And so, anyway, if you guys want to introduce yourselves as well, so we know who's here. Rich Cobb.
Hi.
East Pinion.
Well, not for too much longer. 22,
Diane
22.
Freilich,
Diane.
East Red Hawk.
And Jay, right?
Jay Kleinfeld, Manzanita Drive in Cedar Point.
And
Atwood.
Dan Atwood. Okay.
Leah Atwood.
Leah Atwood,
Now
okay.
across the highway.
So, anyway, I appreciate you guys being here. We do have some water up here, and these cookies are amazing. I hope everybody takes a cookie, because I'm a diabetic, and that would be bad for me. So, let me see if I can get this slideshow to work. We'll kind of bounce through this a little bit, if I can possibly figure it out. Looks like we can. So developing Main Street was just a vision I wanted to put on the website. So we had some feedback from the community of what we want Main Street to look like some days. And the reason I did this is because I'm trying to develop Main Street as much as in many of the mayor meetings that I go to, I've been amazed at how far out some of the planning happens for communities. And these guys are, today talking about, we need a road here in 10 more years. And I was talking to the mayor of St. George recently, and there was that bridge that they put where that Maverick and that new Smith's over there. It took them 10, 12 years, I think he said, just to get permission. Once they decided to put the bridge in, that's how long it took just to get the bridge in, because of environmental and impact studies and all the different things they got to jump through. It took them 10 years to jump through all those hoops to even be able to have permission to build that bridge there, let alone actually do it. And so they really think out quite a ways, and it made me think that we've got a lot of developers that are courting us right now that want to do different projects. And I feel like that, have we thought through what we want to have it be in the future? And the reason I want to take the time to do that isn't so much that I want to create this metropolis out on Main Street, as much as if we don't want a metropolis, we better think about it now. And if we only want it for a portion of Main Street, we need to think about it now. And if we don't want hotels right smack in the middle of our view, we got to think about it now. And so those are decisions that we can make today. If we wait 5 years and then start thinking about it, it could already be made for us, because there's a hotel back there, and we had no way to stop them because of our inability to say no, because it's zone commercial,
I was wondering how much of the byway is actually part of Apple Valley?
All of it is.
All the way down to Rockville?
No, not all the way to Rockville, but at least to the top of the hill. I don't know the exact turnoff, but I know Gooseberry Road, where you turn left,
Yeah, no,
that's all Apple Valley as well.
Sorry, it goes at least to Gooseberry.
At least to Gooseberry, and then all of Gooseberry Road is all in Apple Valley as well.
Is it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this came up recently on the Gooseberry Road because we have a development up there. And I was in the county commissioner's office talking to him about some issues, and I was kind of surprised that he slid over a document to me that was a memorandum of understanding. And basically it just says That's a tourist attraction, it's one of your roads, we'd like to take care of it for you, because we're getting complaints on that road from people that have, two-wheel drive cars, and it gets really shady there in a couple of spots, and they want to help fix it. And so they do that. They don't charge us anything for it. They just go out there and help us out. And they're grading Main Street for us, and they're taking care of that road for us. And anyway, that's when I found out that I always thought of it as a BLM road, and it's actually an Apple Valley road. Anyway, so my vision for coming up with a vision is about trying to think ahead to create some kind of comprehensive plan of what we want to have. A couple things came into play on this, and let's go through some of these results, and I'll kind of fill you in as we go. But so the notice of survey was sent out it was on the top of our website at applevalleyut.gov for about 3 weeks. It was just a banner, you click on it, fill out the survey. We had 45 respondents. And these surveys were also mailed out, or the request for people to take a look at the survey was mailed out in the water bills about a month ago. So we're asking people basically, what is your vision for Main Street? What do you want it to look like in the future? And a mouse keeps disappearing here, and this is what one of the results came back. What is your vision of Main Street? 58% of the respondents said it should be commercial. And this is, by the way, online. If you can take notes, feel free to, but just so you know, this exact slideshow presentation is on the mayor's page live, where you can go in and look at it right now. I just put it on there today. And so 58% of it's commercial, and 7% residential, 20% said open space, and 15% said none of these. And so this was just a questions like Main Street in general, should it be? Now the next question we're going to ask is I prefer Main Street to be commercial. It seems like that's a redundant one.
The first step.
Sorry. Anyway, I apologize. I didn't make up this thing. I'm trying to think what that would be. Let me get the actual survey out.
Looks like that's just
It's just
how
the
people
answer.
answered.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
a great
How they
thing.
felt.
Oh,
Of the
okay.
ones that did prefer to
Oh,
see
okay.
commercial.
It's how they answered. Okay,
Yeah.
so now we have, thank you for noticing the difference on that. And so the strongly agreed, or those that agreed, or those that slightly agreed, it kind of gives us an idea how they fared on that.
Now, I have a question.
Yeah.
The strongly agree and agree, do you add the two of those together, or is it?
Well, in a environment like this, is what we're basically doing is we're asking how passionate are they about it. And so right here you can see that most people agreed with it, and 25% strongly agreed with it, but most people agreed with it. And the way we worded the survey, you're in a place where you can agree or you can not agree.
Right.
And so that's what these other ones are. They're either neutral, or they disagreed, or they strongly disagree. And so we have 5 different categories you could land in, and we look at this one as mostly positive, that most people said, yeah, it should be, not loving the idea, but yeah, probably should be. It's probably what this category is on the agreeing part. And so that kind of gives you a feel for the flavor of the community who feels it. Now the next question was, how much of it should be commercial? Should all of it be commercial, a mile of it or a half mile? That's kind of how we worded it, just to kind of get some feedback from people of how they want to see it. And the first mile is right at 49%, so pretty much half the people said no more than the first mile of Main Street. And the first mile, if you drive on Main Street, if you guys know where our house is, or Josie property where Mount Zion Drive curves and Josie, Walter Josie's right there. That's a mile. If you go from Walter Josie's house and go to Main Street, that's about where a mile is. So all of Mount Zion Drive then is, you know, behind there is all open space.
Just
So-
one question, is that past the grape?
Just slightly past the grapes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's a little vineyard somebody
Right,
started
yes.
out there.
Gentry's,
It's
yeah.
just slightly
Yeah,
past
okay.
that.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
a mile.
And so that's a mile in, and when Tish and I drove this one day, we're looking at that saying, a mile's a long ways, when you're talking about commercial and businesses and things like that. I mean, so we could push it, you know, even at first, we could say, okay, only the first half mile, and then, once that's filled in, okay, then we'll go another half mile, and then we could, you know, at least build it that direction, but.
I
Your
have a question. I've heard that Main Street's gonna be rerouted.
Yeah.
So that it's gonna come out over by Coyote. So that, how does that affect where that mile is?
Well, that was the vision that Robert had, and the people on Coyote don't like that idea very much.
Oh,
And so that is right here, so this is 400 North,
yeah,
and that would mean rerouting it to here,
yeah.
where you have some kind of curve in here. The thing I didn't like about too is you have all this farm equipment right there, and they've got these huge metal sheds, and it's right along a telephone pole line, and it's like, that'd be an ugly main street, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it could be those aren't there someday,
So
but,
that's not necessarily.
but they have
gonna
steel
happen.
buildings, and I mean, it looks like it's more of a permanent more than temporary, but, and so the realignment right now is more like a lazy S through here that makes it, instead of a sharp angle, it straightens it out.
So it
And you
hits,
just have a lazy S through that intersection to where now you
so
have.
it doesn't come out at such a weird angle.
Right.
So it'd just be down at that end.
And that's the direction I'm heading right now with UDOT and the
Yeah.
county.
So who owns the property on each side of that? No, I mean, it's actually owned by, okay.
By people,
It
yeah.
doesn't
It's
matter
private,
who, it just.
yeah, it's private owners, and they're, it sounds like at this point on the realignment part, for the most part, I haven't talked to the one, but my understanding is they're gonna be cooperative on realigning it, because they happen on both sides of the road. So if we move it or turn a little bit, it sixes to them in that.
So they have.
Does anybody know what that means, that sixes to them?
6 of one, half dozen of the
Does
other.
anybody, do you understand what that means? No?
It's neither here or there, it's
Yes,
just
exactly.
sixes.
I said
It's
that
not-
to,
it's
I
not-
said that to Rich the other day, and he's like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, they ain't saying, they're not saying that on the East Coast, trust me.
It's not gonna
They
make
got a
any
different
difference.
term, which I'd
That
rather not
must,
say.
that must come from
I
6.
just have to embarrass him in the meeting.
They're
Tomatoes
still-
and
6 of one,
tomatoes.
half dozen of the
Whatever
other.
plans they might have for that property will have to change after this.
No,
They-
it's-
They have to comply with.
Everybody
the
wants to
state.
sell their property, and but they are concerned about that. And so since you brought that up, let me explain how that works. Is some of these ideas, they have real consequences to people that are in the community that, in this case, they own that property. What do they say about it? They both hate the idea. They don't like the idea of doing anything like this, because what it's going to do is create some type of, covenants or restrictions on what someone can do with their property. And there's a lot of people in that valley don't like any of that stuff. And what we're trying to do, though, is come up with a vision for the community and where's their happy medium in there. And so you get those people out there, they are thinking, gosh, if you go and put these wild restrictions on there, this could be that I can't sell my property because the guy that wants to buy it wants to do this, and your restrictions won't let him do that. And I feel like that, no, I'm not sure that's the case, that it would mean that they can't do it. It just mean that, can we make it look a little bit upscale? Could we possibly, instead of letting them just build a steel building and call it a grocery store, that we require stucco and, maybe a front porch on it with posts, and, in other words, add some architectural interest in the property. It wouldn't mean they can't build a grocery store. It just mean that, can we make the grocery store look something besides the dollar store out there in Hilldale?
Right, this is why we gotta do a color code
Right.
for the community.
And those are all ideas, but we have to do what you're saying in a balanced way. In other words, I don't wanna go so far that he can't sell his property. That wouldn't be the
Right.
goal at all.
Right.
It wouldn't be the goal that we want to prevent someone from even developing the property. It's more about coming up with something that's, you know, developer friendly, that has some, at least some guidelines, that gives them a part of our vision. So when they bring architecturally some plans to us and say, here's what I had in mind for this property on Main Street, that it somewhat meets the guidelines of what we want to do. Because there's things we have to think about, signage. Where's it at, how bright it is, where's it shining, and what about the lighting on the property? You know, and then even the building itself, because, I mean, someone can go out there and just build a steel building and say it's a curio shop. And it'll look like that forever, it'll just be this rusty looking crappy building.
Well, it's just like when you drive through Hurricane, as that town grew, it was just random, they
Yeah.
just randomly put anything anywhere, and there's no character or
Right, and I'm just trying to think
personality
of-
for the thousands and thousands of people that go through there. It's like,
And if you drive into Hurricane from La Verca, and the first thing you see on your left is the junkyard.
Right.
Yeah. And
It's been there for 80 years. so-
Ballard's have had that land for longer than most of us been alive.
Yeah.
That happened since I moved here.
Yeah.
I used to live in Hurricane.
Yeah, Ballard's has had that for over 50 years.
It's
been
gotten
there for a long
worse
time.
though.
Yeah, and that's what we want to try to prevent. You wouldn't want someone to say, oh, I'm gonna put a wrecking yard in Apple Valley, out in Apple Valley Main Street because the property's cheap and, you know, there's no water there, but I don't need any, and, you know, next thing you know, you've got this eyesore that's for the next 50 years, and so it's,
No, they hit it.
things we decide today have consequences for the future, yet we can't be so over the top that we're preventing these people from selling their property, developing it, or coming up with things. We're not, you know,
We
I just
want-
feel like that,
We want to guide them, not prohibit them.
right, with minimal, light gloves,
Intrusions.
if we can say it
It
that
seems
way.
like they would be anxious to sell it as commercial property though.
Oh, it's all commercial, there's no doubt about that, and they know that. They know they've got a really nice commercial piece, they know they're on the highway, they're on Main Street. They know that it's gonna be commercial there. Without a doubt, it will be commercial. And this survey was just trying to help the planning commission and the town council to see what people wanna have and where the temperature is in the room, so to speak. I was calling a lot of people on this, and they said, thanks for asking what we wanna do before you just do it, you know. And so that's kind of what my take on it was, is I wanna know what people wanna do.
Just one question.
Yeah.
Do we know how many miles is it to the Gooseberry turnoff?
2.5 is what I
2.5.
clocked on my car.
Okay.
And so you got 1.5 miles of what's empty out there, and then, you know, we've already approved a cabin project out there that's by the Gooseberry turnoff. It could be that that's appropriate for cabin projects someday out there, but, you know, we don't want a Burger King with a, you know, 75-foot sign out there, you know,
No.
something like that, so.
Well, that would be something I'd bring up, would be height restrictions and
mhm,
architectural standards.
right. Well, it's like Springdale, I mean, they allow hotels and restaurants, but they have to have a certain look.
Right, and this is one of them back here behind me, and this hotel that is on the display back here is an example of, you know, a different type of architecture from a Wild West theme. So let me talk about the Wild West thing. I came up with, you know, what are we known for out here in the West, and we have tour buses, they come out and they love this kind of stuff, and they're coming from all over the world. We looked at a presentation last night from the people at Jefferson Canyon, and they have the Native American Cultural Center, and, you know, these are gonna be draws to the community as they get installed, and so someone mentioned it to me, I thought, it's not a bad idea, and so I put it on the survey to do that. Now, what I didn't do, though, is I didn't put this on the survey. I didn't put, what if it would look like this? Would that be better for? And so if I had that on there, this log cabin type of lodge type of structure for stores or hotels, would everybody have said yes to that? Nobody had said yes to the Wild West theme. And so in a way, my survey was flawed once I started getting a couple of different people talking to me. I'm like, I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that one, and I'll go over a couple more of them. The other one that came up was the Zion's Visitor Center. Says, think about the architecture of that. You have those,
You got a picture of that up there?
I don't think I have that, but,
You can probably Google it real quick.
but I don't think I've got it. Maybe he does even, actually. Let me look, because knowing Ben, let's see, no, he didn't put one in there, but, so, in my opinion, when you go to that, the visitor center that we have up there, it has a red rock, kind of cut sandstone, and, you know, it's mortared together, the log rails that border the, you know, your parking lots, and just the flavor that you get there, that screams, you know, Zion National Park, and so I didn't put that kind of a theme in there either as part of the possibility instead of the Wild West. So I could have put 3 or 4 of them in there, Cayenta style.
Real quick, that stone, that sandstone cut like that's way more money than logs and things like that.
Logs would be a lot better.
So if we're talking, you know what I mean, trying to help out somebody wanting to develop,
Yeah.
if we go to that standard, if that's what we chose, we just increase somebody's cost
And
significantly.
that would match the Just
So-
Canyon project also.
So
Yeah.
that wood beam one looks pretty cool. I like the western thing. There's a lot of that in Tropic, Utah.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, there are a lot of their hotels, a lot of their stuff right on the
Well,
main
They've got it in
drag.
Sedona, they've got it, I mean,
the one
I like
picture,
that.
it's,
the one
it's
picture
quaint.
It fits us.
it's quaint, you know. it's-
the one picture I didn't include in retrospect I should have is if you go down to the cotton mill, you know, which is the
Washington.
nursery there, right across the street from that, there's a water tower, and Sunrise Engineering is right there in the center. There's a farmer's market in there, and you go into that farmer's market, and this was what I had in mind. So you look at Sunrise Engineering, they have the shed roof with the post, the porch look to it, the way they do their windows, but the building's still stucco. Yet it has this flair of this
Old West.
Old
thing.
West kind of a look to it, yet it's all modern as far as it's stuccoed. It's not, you know, all barnwood. We're not trying to duplicate a, you know, a 1800s kind of a look. It's more about using some wood on your fascia and the rest of it's stucco. That's kind of what I would have in mind if we did it anyway. It wouldn't be,
Well, I think the stucco, some of that, like the false front wood thing, can actually look kind of tacky. You
and-
know,
Right, if it's too much, yeah.
and it can,
But
and
there's a
it's,
way-
and it has to be maintained or it gets,
And when you look at,
and, you
but you
know.
look at that
If it's a
particular
business, they're
center,
gonna wanna
But
maintain it.
yeah.
They're not gonna
and
wanna-
they
Something
also,
like that.
and they also did like a road base parking lot, for example.
yeah.
And so you're parking on dirt, and you're walking across the dirt, which is kind of this gravelly kind of stuff, into the little store that has a porch on it to go into the farmer's market, and,
Yeah.
but it's basically, these are all new buildings, they're not
Yeah.
old buildings yet, it's kind of a quaint little,
Well, I mean,
shopping area, and that's kind of what I was trying to come up with, was something along that line that,
Mhm.
and we need to have a standard on that because we can't just stop McDonald's or Subway or any of those guys coming in.
Right,
Springdale lost to that one, they got their
Right.
Subway.
right.
So if we have the standards
Yeah,
in of what it's gonna
very
look like and what lighting's
Right.
gonna be, because even the big towns right now, that's the big thing in the news, is they're fighting their night sky ordinances. And they're starting to look, you know, they're drowning out that night sky enough, they're starting to look at what they need to do to improve that pollution.
yeah.
As if we can keep our standard of what we want for what the buildings look like and what that light pollution is,
Right,
then it doesn't matter if McDonald's comes in or Subway
Right.
comes in or any of those guys come in.
right.
Right, then now you're talking cardwood signs that are low to the ground
Right.
out there.
Right.
And those are all things we have to visit, or
Yep.
even our signing ordinances right now and the lighting of those signs, because these are all important factors that we have to consider today, because there's so many businesses. I get calls constantly on people who want to do something in Apple Valley, and it's scary to one extent, but the other part of it is we have time right now to decide. You know, we can't tell them no, but we can tell them no, where do you want to do it? We can't do it, but we can do it over here, you know, that kind of a thing, because of, you know, the general maps.
We'll have
Yes.
to really get strict on our night skies, cause
Mhm.
with the planetarium going in up here,
Mhm.
and I love to see the stars.
We can do it better.
I think Chevron's gonna have to change their lighting.
There's some people out there that have some incorrect
yeah, it's-
lighting on their house. I know there's a house on Mount Zion Drive is that way.
We did it wrong.
Well, I've seen, yeah, even like guard lights that aren't,
We did it wrong. We haven't
Down
turned our
facing.
lights on since we moved in because we realized we did it wrong.
Yeah.
And
solar.
they're coming. We're changing them all out, but
Yeah,
it's,
it's not supposed to
it's
be.
easy to
down
make a
Yes.
goof.
And
down.
mine
Yeah,
are
it's easy
coach
to make a
lights
goof.
shining out, so we just spent a couple $1,000 ordering new lights to replace them all. So, but anyway.
So if anybody needs
I'll
any
take the old
lights,
one.
No, you can't put them on. No, nobody here can have them.
It'd be polluted.
But anyway, night skies are important to everybody, and
Could we have,
Well, you know, the stuff like, you know, the Arby's or Wendy's or, you know, McDonald's, whatever, I've been all over the place in construction, all over the country, up in Alaska, all over, and they build themed,
Yeah,
and you
they'll
can still
conform.
have McDonald's or Burger, it doesn't matter. They will theme that right to fit right in our little, what we
Yeah.
decide,
Right,
and it'll still be their restaurant, their food.
right.
Right.
They're not
The
gonna care
inside will
one
still
bit.
be like it always is,
Yeah.
but.
Right.
So, well, I don't think we're asking too much at all.
Yeah.
with the lighting, could there be some sort of curfew that after a certain time of night, like midnight, for instance, that you have to turn your lights off except for emergency places like the fire department, your, the main.
I don't think on a business that's a good idea.
Well, I also think you
It's
have.
a safety,
Well,
it's
yeah,
a,
it's a safety thing
issue.
with homes, I don't think you can
Yeah.
impose that one, it's just.
Like, I have a porch light that
Minimal.
just shines down. I
Well,
leave
we
it
have-
on
we have a
all
lot
night for
of
safety,
promotional
so.
As long as they're shining down, it's not gonna affect our
Yeah.
night sky.
Because in my neighborhood, there's a couple of people, lights are on all night long.
Right, and those are not shining out kind of lights, or
Yeah, they are.
they're against the ordinance.
Have you ever drove through Scottsdale, Arizona recently?
So it messes with the wildlife.
Scottsdale, Arizona, you drive through there at night and you don't know you're in a city. I mean, you can, the lights on the streets and everything are so right on the street. I mean, you can't see way ahead of you and see a store 5 blocks down the road because they're literally shining straight down on the
Yeah.
street. And it's kind of cool. It was, I mean, I drove through there about a year and a half ago and I was like, this isn't the same place that I drove through, 8 years ago. Because they changed
Well,
it.
Ivans has done a pretty good job with that too. Reston, Virginia is a good example of where they've been very careful about the lighting.
Well, we
Never-
want to do the same, and we have some violators out there that you even mentioned, but it just takes a code violation form. The nuisance complaints are online, and I know you don't do computers, but you can walk in here and do a nuisance complaint and give us the address, and we have someone go talk to them about the lights. So,
And it is anonymous.
yes. So hotels on Main Street. We asked that question because hotels typically are taller buildings, and it's challenging if you have a hotel and you're telling them, no, it has to be a one-story hotel. That might be a hardship where they need to go up in order to get the number of rooms, and so we have to also kind of balance that a little bit. And said, most people says only on the first half mile, 40%, and only the first mile. And so there's only a small amount of people said anywhere on Main Street's okay, 15% of the people. And there's a smaller percentage, or about 70% that said none at all on Main Street. But if you're in the first half mile, I just think that's appropriate. When I drive a half mile, that's a lot of hotels.
Right.
And if we call that the hotel street for the first half mile, and then the next half mile maybe is the business district, or where you have some shops or restaurants or things like that, that could be a possible solution where we kind of push them down towards.
So the easy thing to do with that would be is the hotels that are more than one story have to be in the first half mile.
Mhm.
They can still do lodging out further, but they need to be smaller, single story,
That's a good
maybe
idea.
individual
Like
type
cabin
units.
things, or-
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Right.
Yeah, like the cabin type things or something like that, because they're not gonna be very tall.
And that's
So-
a good idea too. That's can be a compromise for that. But it's,
That way they can still do their lodging that they wanna do, cause they buy this piece of ground out here, and it's still in the commercial area or whatever.
Right.
but it doesn't affect the rest of us for height on our views and the whole.
Our preference is to push them on to 59, but
Correct.
you have that corner of 59 and you know, so if that corner became then where a hotel came, that's where I'd want them. Is
Yes.
Well, and,
closer to 59.
and I see
but,
all these hotels going up in Hurricane, and they're 3 stories high, and they're cutting
4.
off the views, 3 or 4 stories, and they are cutting off those
Yeah.
views. You know, if we could restrict them to even 2 stories or something.
Well, we
because-
have to worry about fire also.
We won't
Right.
get
The higher we go.
Yeah, we can't go any higher than
Attacking
5 double
level.
stories for fire
Yeah.
for us, so.
Yeah,
So that could be an advantage
that's
for
a
this
good
town.
excuse, yeah, yeah.
You know, we don't have that fire that
Yeah.
Hurricane does, so. Anyway, so this is, was the results on that one, on how people felt about it. And the theme idea, how do people like it? We had strongly agree, 38%, agree, 27%. So you add that together, you've got about, what's that, 65%. People said that they're really liking the idea of a themed type of community out there where we're pushing some type of, can we head this way? And architecturally, I just think that if we have an architectural review committee, we tell people that we're going to push a certain direction, then at least we can do that. Now, it's important to remember that when we asked this question, that we didn't have on the table the log cabin idea, and we didn't have on it the Zion Lodge kind of an idea. We didn't have on it Cayenta kind of an idea, where you have, you
Please
know,
don't bring up the Cayenta deal up here.
I know, I think it's overdone. I'm kind of tired of it myself, but these are what people that have responded shared with me, and that's why I want to share this with you guys.
Yeah, but he's not doing any of those type of buildings here.
Yeah.
It's just important to me that everybody's heard, and some of those ideas came out, but it's in smaller numbers. But I can't help but wonder if I redid that survey and put it on there again and ask these questions, would the Western theme even hold up, or would it be something else? And I appreciate, you know, Richard pointing out that, you know, if you go to that Zion Lodge, or not the Zion Lodge, but the Zion Visitor Center kind of a thing, yeah, it's beautiful, but the government can afford to build it, and I'm not sure anybody else
Rock
can.
and everything's in there, yeah.
It's
Because that could be just a huge,
Well, and
Burden.
there's
and, keep in mind, these are architectural designs that we're talking about. You could end up 3/4 of the building still stucco, like right now. It's just the front fascia has some of this on there.
right, just the front.
You know, so it's not the whole building we're trying to build out of brick and mortar or something, you know, and so just the fascia could be cost, you know, effective, so.
Maybe based on the results that you got from the survey and what you get from people tonight, you could do like the survey part 2 based.
And that's what I think I want to do, is do a second survey just to clarify some of these points that I hadn't thought of. And that's why I invited you guys here to share with you some of the ideas that were given to me, because first off, some of the people that hated the idea the most, when I called them, it was really informative to listen to them, because now you get to find out why they hate it so much. And first off, the feedback is the Old West theme to them is outdated and passé, and you know, and so I can see where they'd see it that way. And when I put pictures like this one on the website as an example of what a Western theme might be, I could see where they'd say that. And I didn't put really good photographs of what I pictured, like the Sunrise Engineering Building, you know, where you have
I
of a
like
more
that
modern rendition of that, you know.
stucco combination wood porchy thing, yeah.
Corrugated steel roof, you know, it's a little rusty. That kind of a thing is what I kind of had in mind, is that it would look, you know, it's kind of like you walk into Cafe Rio and you have this ambiance because of the shed roof inside the building. You know, it's that kind of a thing where you have this different ambiance created by a few little things like that, so.
I wonder,
But-
when I first looked at the website, I thought it looks like a done deal. They're pushing this Western thing and that's that.
Oh, no.
Because that was the only thing that was pictured.
Well, it was just the only thing in my mind, so. Since I wrote the survey, you know, that's what's gonna come out. But the whole thing is we throw this out there.
But I just
Put
wonder
out there
if
for
people,
feedback.
the way they responded to the survey was because that's what they saw.
Well, this is why we put it out, because I want people to say, oh, hell no, not my lifetime, you know. If that's how they felt, I wanted that, because it's important to me to have that kind of feedback, because, okay, well, that didn't go over maybe as quite as good as I thought. But you can see here that a lot of people love the idea, but there's quite a bit of pushback, and there's new ideas that I didn't consider. So we'll probably redo the survey and clarify, okay, and I'll get some better pictures, and we'll quantify it, try to come up with better clarification on what those buildings might look like, and then we'll let people get ideas. Is it still a good idea or a bad idea?
I
Sure,
think one of the, regardless of what theme it's gonna be, like Janet said, there has to be color restrictions, that it matches the backdrop,
Yeah.
and it's not, it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb.
Well, what we
I like
would,
that also.
what we would do is ask for someone in the community to volunteer to be on an architectural review committee, and this committee would actually come up with what the rules are going to be.
Yeah, just parameters. Right?
Yeah,
Right.
and so we would put together basically a small booklet, kind of on these different issues that we would tackle. How we feel about this and how we feel like that. And we come up with maybe some example pictures of what we're looking for and what some of those guidelines are. So when someone does show up at the door, we say, here's kind of what we had in mind for that. How close can you come? And then the architectural review can decide that, did they come close enough? And can we tweak a couple of things? I mean, I don't want to do this to where we're rabid and we have to say no to everybody, but I also don't want steel buildings that say dollar store on them out there on Main Street that just look like just a steel building, And so if you let people do that, that's what they're going to build, But if we kind of try to uplift that just a little bit, I think we can do it without just by asking and just saying, no, we're looking for something just a little bit nicer than that. I think especially when Hank gets that project off the ground, that makes a difference when you have that thing going on in the community. So anyway, so that kind of gives you a little feel for that. Low density housing, I asked that question because now if we decide that the first mile of Main Street is going to be that commercial possibility and Western theme or not Western theme, whatever we decide on that, you have a lot of land out there. What do we picture that being? And I was just thinking of places like Dameron Valley. My wife and I were driving through Dameron Valley before we built our house to see if we could snatch up 4 or 5 acres out there, and maybe that's where we'd want to live one day. And there wasn't anything; it was all built out. And but when you drive around some of those 5-acre parcels out there, they're spread out. They're primarily horse properties, but they're they require the split rail fence type of rounded log kind of a fencing is one of their CC&Rs out there as well. And when you do that in that community, holy cow, does it look nice! They plant trees. It looks wonderful out in Dameron Valley. And so when you look at that and you talk about the density compared to even Apple Valley. Even these 1-acre lots, sometimes we might feel too dense for the scenic byway kind of an area, and we might want larger density.
That's where you get into what Kayanta's doing. Because Kayanta's got some beautiful places, and you can go hiking, and you don't even see the houses.
Yeah, they're probably restricted beyond what we're willing to do here, but that's why they've done what they're done, because they're larger lots, they've spread them out, they leave some of that vegetation in place. And, so I was wanting to see what people say on density. Is it 1-acre low density or high density or medium density? Because the Planning Commission, we're asking them to really define that. So when we have a map that says medium density, we know that medium density means from this many to this many acres, we have an idea. And so I kind of wanted to put that on the table.
And then up against the hillside, you're looking at weeds.
Well, there's not.
You've got acres and acres.
I was gonna say mostly there's no vegetation.
There's
out
no
there.
vegetation except weeds.
So what was the response about the density?
51% said 1 acre or more. 27% 2.5 acres is what low density should be. I'm in the minority there. I was thinking 2.5 to 5 acres should be low density, or 2.5 or higher. The medium density would be maybe anything that's in that 1 acre range, and then you know, higher density would be a little smaller, you know, like half-acre lots or something, or smaller than half-acre.
But you want that closer to the
See, to
commercial and the high density on
to
the.
me, everything that we have in Apple Valley would be qualified according to that as low density. And I
Except
think
for the
it's,
half
I think
acre
it's
that's over
more dense
Yeah.
than
Uh-huh.
what I call low density. I think to
Yeah.
me, this
Yeah.
is medium density.
Yeah, I was just trying to protect that area, so if we look at that area on Main Street that's not where hotels and things are, that first mile, and we go out there and, I kinda have buyer's remorse on, what we've already approved out there as far as the half-acre lots for Travis. I was just thinking that maybe what we really wanna have is, you know, even 2.5-acre lots out there.
If you're
Yeah,
gonna
to
have
5-acre lots.
High density, it shouldn't be there, it should be.
I agree.
If anything half acre or more, we need to keep it away.
From there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just think
Put
that,
that next to the hillside
what we've
somewhere.
approved is all we should
Traffic
ever
lights.
have
Or
there.
around Dead Man's Curve, in that canyon
Right.
there, put it there.
Yeah, there's a lot of areas where
There's
those
places where it could
Yeah.
be that it wouldn't
be as
impact
unsightly,
as
yeah.
many people, yeah.
Yeah, I think the stuff up next to the commercial should start at about 2.5. And then as it goes out a little bit more, then you go into 5.
Yeah.
And then once we
Keep
get
bigger
away from that
residence
ways,
further
then, I mean, we gotta designate one area that's more of a medium to high density, half-acre lots and whatever. And that one area is that spot right there, and just let's pick an area and
Yeah.
whatever builder
Well,
developer wants to
and there could be a
have.
couple
He had a
areas.
meeting with the state
Yeah.
about density.
Yeah,
They're pushing for
they're
some
pushing
high
for
density stuff.
higher density stuff, and they're gonna
They're
tie
gonna
it
almost
to
dictate it to
they're
the
gonna
cities.
tie it to BC road
Oh,
funds.
they are,
They're not,
yes.
you know,
They're gonna hold us
and
ransom.
we're small enough. They're not gonna push us yet, but it's not gonna be that long where
Yeah,
we're
it'll happen.
not a town anymore. We're a city. It only takes 1,000 people, and we're not that far away. And all of a sudden, we're gonna be a city, and that changes our classifications and requirements where we have to have higher density housing available.
And
And-
lower
But if
income.
we pick that area right now, so we can say, hey, we can have it, fine.
And that's my thoughts. This is why we're having these conversations.
Over here.
Yeah.
We could do it in Hilldale, let Hilldale do the high density, you know? And then maybe just a little bit outside of Hilldale, down the valley border, the high density is right there. I'm sorry.
I like what you think.
Well, it wouldn't even be such a bad deal on Main, but further away from 59.
Yeah.
Let go
Let's
3
go
or 4
by-
miles or
We'll
2
go by Richard
miles.
Fisher's house.
But isn't
No,
that,
no,
Like
no.
private.
don't they usually put the higher density closer to
The commercial.
the traffic
Commercial.
areas
Yeah.
so that you're not having all that traffic go through your other residential
Right.
areas?
Right, usually they
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, that's why we asked that question. There's the answer up there. I personally, even given how hard leaning it is to 1 acre, I'd like to push some of that out there to be even lower density than that in that Main Street area. If we're talking about trying to preserve that views, I just think of Denver Valley. You drive through those tree line streets, those 5-acre parcels right there. It looks really nice, and you know, whether they're not for horse properties is something else, but I just like that look and feel. And
But
so I-
Dameron Valley
I see
does
it.
have smaller than
They do. They have a lot of
Oh,
1
yeah.
acres. Yeah, they do. And probably even smaller than that, I would imagine. But I know they have at least 1
I think
acre
the
lots.
smallest I looked at was 1
Yeah,
acre.
on the right-hand side, you get those ranches that are, you know, even New Harmony, is it? What's that one up the top of the hill, Black Hill? That's,
What's it called? Not Vale. It's right before Vale.
yeah. Well, no, I'm talking about
You're talking about
New
off of
New Harmony.
15, New Harmony area. There's,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
that's all 5 acres through there.
Yeah,
It looks great when you look at that.
The smallest
It's all
lot they
spread
have
out.
right there is 2.5.
Yeah.
You can't get any lot over there smaller
Yeah.
than 2.5. Most of the stuff's 5 acres over there.
And all those stuff
Big.
are
You go over the ridge and there's 10-acre parcels.
All right, we just, all right, what happened to our screen went dark up here? Where's our techno guy?
That'd be you. Want a mirror?
You touched that when I saw it.
Do you know anything about Apple TVs?
Well,
There's Apple, there's a Windows sign on there.
Just showing the lighting and the way they want it.
most of the tech people aren't that impressed.
That's not Apple, is it?
No,
It's Apple
Windows.
TV.
It's Apple TV.
It's a smart TV.
It's Vizio, the TV, but
All right, well,
But there's a box behind it.
all right, well, my apologies, I'm not
Is it
sure what
one of
happened
those
to it,
icons?
but I just have a small version now. So I'll try and move out of the
So
way every
everybody
once in a
have-
while.
Good thing it's a small group, so we can all have.
What are all the icons though?
Are you using
That's
this?
the TV at home side.
Oh,
No, I mean,
maybe that was the last one.
Well, this
Yeah.
was,
Behind
I think
it
I was
this
just,
was the ex-mayor's
We have a
recommendation.
couple more questions.
Because he was
He's all
going
about.
to Apple with.
All right, well, anyway, I think that was actually our last slide on the slideshow. Any feedback from people? I mean, you give me a feedback all along, but has there been something that's left unsaid so far?
Well, I had just one suggestion, possibly maybe a visitor center someplace, you know, and maybe in the middle of the project out there, or, you know, I mean, it's gonna
Kind of like
be
a
kind of a hot spot, right?
thing.
Well, if I remember right, wasn't the park going to having a park area where they can take shuttle buses back down that area as well? I remember that somewhere being in the back of discussions
I hope not.
in this last year and a
I
half.
really want to have a parking lot out
We
there
want to find
somewhere.
the vans.
But that could be a possibility, because I remember that being in the talks with Zions having a shuttle service going back and forth down that hill over in there as well.
Yeah, the last UDOT meeting, they were still pushing on buses from, all the way from St. George, similar to Suntrans kind of a thing, where there are gonna be more express lines though, where they're not stopping at every corner. There's like, they stop here, they stop maybe in Virgin, and, you know, and then they hit Springdale.
But I thought they were talking about the park buses, the actual park buses. 'Cause aren't they were talking about putting a parking lot down there where they want to bring the bridge across from that gravel pit and bring it
Yeah,
up the hill.
and that's
too,
all, conversations are happening on that still,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
So we gotta take that in consideration too, if they push or decide that, hey, we need a little parking lot up here too, we gotta think of that as
I've
well.
been reading Rockville's minutes, and they're planning on having a park and ride in Rockville.
Before
Right,
you get
they,
done.
the city
It's
bought
the beginning of Rockville.
Right.
that, yeah,
They've
land
got
It's
out
from that gravel pit.
300 acres there
Right.
somewhere
Yeah.
that they picked up.
Yeah.
So that's a big parking
west of
lot.
there, yeah.
so
And
according
that's also close to where they're talking about putting, our road that goes down, they're gonna
The
actually
new
turn
bridge.
left and go
Rather than
across.
coming the old way, they're gonna bring it right
Yeah,
down.
it goes around,
But they don't have the
it goes
easements
town
yet
and then goes
for that.
down
That's
the
right,
other
by
side.
Grafton.
Right,
Yeah.
so they come out kind of by Grafton then.
Well, I
Yeah.
think they lined up all the property owners along the river, which is like valuable property,
Mhm.
because they're gonna have to put a bridge across it. And I think they were like arm wrestling over whose property they were gonna like seize.
put the bridge
Yeah.
over.
But it's sad, because a lot of that property in Rockville along the river has been family owned for a long time.
Generations, yeah.
Rockville doesn't want.
And
Yeah.
Rockville is very unhappy with the tourism boom that they've promoted.
Yeah, the horses out of the barn.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, they don't like the tourists
I
yet,
felt
so they're
it.
right there, you know.
Well, they're pushing coral pinks too, because if you go down to Vegas, they've got
Yeah.
billboards up over for coral
Yeah.
pinks.
Yeah.
So now coral pinks are being bombarded with that
Well,
same thing.
Now it's four-wheeler time, and
Mhm.
Yes, it's
these
crazy.
traffic, I mean, I go down the hill every
Mhm.
morning and I'm bombarded
It's
with
bumper to bumper.
trailers and
Mhm.
trailers and RVs coming up this
Yeah.
So
direction.
they're already
This-
pushing it clear into Hilldale. They've gone up into the water canyon of Hilldale. They did it a year and a half ago. They put a trailhead in. They went up there.
Mhm.
They seized the spot right above my stepdad's actual reservoir where
Mhm.
he owns, my stepdad owns 27% of the water rights out of that canyon. And they put a flip dam, a floodgate. The one that floods real heavy, it knocks it down, and then, you know, but otherwise it just takes the stream and it keeps the reservoir full, and that's what he's been watering his fields with for a million years. They went right there, put in a restroom, put in a parking spot, I mean, all this stuff so you can hike, and this year they're gonna start charging to go up that canyon right there. They're calling it the backdoor design.
Who's?
Hilldale is?
who's
No,
that's-
doing
Park
it?
Service.
No, this is,
National
Because
Park
it's Zion,
Service.
because it's Zion Wilderness.
Oh, it wasn't. They just took it. last year.
That's up that one hill out of
Yeah,
Virgin,
they've been on coal
isn't
a
it?
lot too, Richard.
I'm not sure they call it Valley up there. Is that the?
No.
No, if you go
No.
into Hilldale, you stay on the main road past the subway. That's called Utah Avenue.
Oh, okay. You're talking about the Water Canyon.
Water.
Yeah, so if you stay on that road, it'll go up there. Well,
Yeah.
there's a first park is called Maxwell. But if
Yeah.
you stay,
Right.
but if you turn right, you go up back around the next mountain.
Right.
There's another canyon up in there.
Water
They
Canyon.
call that the Water Canyon.
Yeah, Water Canyon is an awesome hike, and yeah, Hilldale's. They've expressed that in some meetings I've been at with them, that they're concerned over them seizing that canyon from them
Yep.
because it's free
Sounds
for
like they
their
already
reasons.
have. Sounds like
Oh,
they
yeah.
did it over this year.
Yeah.
Are
From
they-
last summer to
have they
now, it
fixed
sounds
the
like
road?
they did it.
Yeah.
No, they haven't improved the road, but they put in the restrooms, they put in the parking lot. I'm sure they'll work on improving the road next.
Have to.
But they're gonna start charging, they're calling it the back gate design, but they're gonna let the Hilldale residents have a pass, like the people that go up above Zion's. But everybody else will have to pay just to get up there now.
Well, there's growth heading at us, and that's why I
It's getting out
wanted
of
to do this,
control.
was try to be proactive and get ahead of the growth with some ideas, some planning, and it's kind of funny, I had some guys from Five Counties Association of Government in here today, and they were doing I don't know, it's kind of comical the way, Michelle says, what are they coming in for? I says, you know what, I'm not sure. But this was their subject. They were talking about what our resources do we have for planning and general planning and mapping and who's in charge of it and who does that. And I says, that's my hat and that's my hat and that's my hat. You know, so it was mayor on their thing as far as being in charge of whatever. And I told them what we're doing, like this meeting and surveys, and they're just like, they're beaming because we're asking the community what you want.
Yeah, Cynthia and I were supposed to work on the general plan. And Frank just took over our planning commission meetings, and we never, ever got to it. When he put up all those things that we had to do, that was the one paper that never got done.
Yeah.
And I want to find out, where can I get a map of Apple Valley showing all the roads?
Well, I need to find one too because of we have them first off, but I gotta get it printed. But I need to get a good one printed because I've gotta do our BC road.
Yeah, I'll give you some
count
money
as
and I
well.
want.
That map that I gave you, does it not have all the roads on it?
It could be, I
Okay.
just need a copy that.
I went down to town and had that one printed off.
Okay.
Pull the book out too.
I'll take a look at it again.
That's what my mom used to work.
Anyway, I'd like to talk to Jen just a little bit more about the general map and the general plan rather, because there's a difference. The general plan, this is a tutorial, you know, paragraph by paragraph kind of description of what our general plan is, and the map then is the results of that tutorial, and so they kind of work together.
This map has absolutely no landmarks on it.
Yeah,
And
right.
it ticks me off when you guys shove this in my face and say, okay, this is this and this and this. I go, well, where is,
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
you
I
know?
hear you. And we can, and what's neat is you can get this online and you can shade those down where you can see landmarks. Because they're actually, even though it's yellow and you can't see through it, you can go in there on the transparency and put it down at like 25%. Now you can see right through the yellow, but you can still see the yellow. So online this still works, but to address what you're talking
I
about.
want to hang up in here, that Cynthia and I can work on and hang up in here.
Okay. And then, but to address what you're talking about, these guys were talking about a general plan and how they can help us create that general plan. And so these guys were trying to find out today where are our shortfalls as a community as far as services that we can provide and things that we need. And they asked, 2 pages of little tiny questions. I mean, anything that I can even dream up a questionnaire so detailed as what they had. And these guys are looking for our shortfalls so they can fill them in. We've got so-and-so, I'm gonna send you an email and it's got this person's name on it and she can help you with this. And I'm gonna send you this one because they can help you with that. And it's all about trying to help us as a community to do things. And I'm so glad they showed up. So anyway, these guys are gonna help us to fill in the blanks because they know we're a small community. And they just roll out the red carpet and, once you have your code, for example, they said, we can get your code verified, not verified, but someone goes, or I think it costs you $25, they said.
And we still need to finish that. We still need to finish that.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about isn't that, because we've got the code codified,
Yeah,
and we've got it perfected as far as that goes. That's all online right now, and that part's done.
yeah.
But they're talking about, so what we did is we went through and verified, are the chapters in the right places and locations, and if it references a different part of the ordinance, is that chapter there, and put the link there so you can click on a link that takes you over to that other part of the code. Things like that are all done. Our code is done. But what they're talking about is having these people that specialize in it that are almost volunteers. We have to pay them a little bit of money, not much, but they will read the code and come up with suggestions that the way you word this, or you're missing this, and for suggestions as far as improvements to the code, where maybe we're against the state law here, or we fell short there, that kind of review on the code. I'm like, hey, yeah, let's have it done.
That would be better than Forrest's view on what
Yeah.
the law is.
And so they're gonna send us a link on who can help us do that as well, and they'll go through our code and they'll help us perfect it a little bit more, so. Anyway, it's all work in progress, and it's all good news, so.
With this Main Street plan, is there a timeline for this? Is there a deadline?
A timeline would be probably another survey, and once we get the survey done, then we would want to see if we can come up with a committee that is willing to spend the time to write this stuff. Put
I'm
it-
sorry, I can't hear what you're talking.
So the timeline would be probably another survey to clarify some of the questions that were brought up, and let's find out what people, how they feel about some of these issues. And at that point, I did have some volunteers in through the survey that said, yeah, I would volunteer to be on a committee. And then we just meet once a month and we start, writing up what we feel like that we want to, maybe an outline. Here's what we think we should address, and, just come up with just a bold outline of parking, signs, buildings, height, different things like that, and just come up with an outline. And then we start expanding that outline one meeting at a time. So this might take us, year and a half to, come up with all the ideas and to write it, but.
Then the people that were here last week, when are they planning on starting?
Well, they're across the street, they're not on Main Street, and architecturally,
That's not gonna affect
Well,
them
I'm just
whatsoever.
wondering, we want to, before they start their project.
It's not gonna
they
affect
should
them
have
at all.
this-
It will not affect them one way or another.
It's totally
yeah, they're
separate.
not on Main Street, so it
It's
wouldn't
totally
affect them.
separate.
No, I know, but Main Street's what takes people there.
Oh, you're talking about Gooseberry Mesa?
Yeah, up on the
Yeah.
Mesa.
Um,
And I thought before they start, we should have this kind of finalized, I would think.
Yeah,
But
but
it's not gonna affect them, it doesn't matter, that's the
But
point.
that ship sailed on that one already? 'Cause
They've already got
they've already
plans
kind of have
approved.
approval.
Yeah, they've already got their
plans.
approval, there's no way we could affect them anyways, they're not building one thing on Main Street.
Yeah, but anyway, they also have, architecturally speaking, they have really some nice buildings designed. They're not
Intrusive.
shipping containers that are, have windows put in them. It's not like that at all, so.
But you figure like a year and a half to get this, is that what you said?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a year to year and a half before we can have all of
Takes
our,
time getting everything together.
by the time we have, because they're volunteers that'll be doing this, and I think a once a month meeting is about all we can probably ask, and then we sit down, we give them all some homework, and then we go back a month later and say, how did we do on the homework, and what ideas do you have? And we just start putting pencil to paper to come up with what our design ideas are. And when it's all done, then we gotta have a public hearing to make sure people still like the idea of what we come up with. And we might even do public hearings in the middle of that, say, here's choice A, choice B, choice C, that the committees come up with, and have people even vote on those. So, I mean, it's a process of asking feedback from the community and try to put some things on paper, so. Sound reasonable? Any-
That was what you called the steering committee?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the steering committee was to also identify, there's probably a couple of them. A steering committee would be more like, I think we should fix this in Apple Valley. Steering committee is more broad for all of Apple Valley, saying that we really need to focus on this road problem here or drainage problem there, or the code's not right here, or we need to, the steering committees are more about identifying issues or problems that people might have. And then this committee would just be only Main Street.
Oh, I see.
That would be the difference in it, so.
An
It's
architectural
just,
committee.
that's where they're gonna just concentrate on that. And we have, had quite a few of them, out of 45, we had, you know, we've got a committee that's volunteered already. We just have to get together the first meeting and discuss some of the issues. So if you're interested in being on it, you know, just be sure to let me know. But it's, I think it'll be a fun committee where, you know, once a month you meet for an hour, hour and a half, and have some conversation about, here's some ideas I came up with, I'll search on the internet, and back in Virginia they do this, and that's the kind of stuff we're looking for on a committee kind of a basis. We look at other communities and say, this really is working well for, you know, Golden, Colorado, or, you know, what's that fun place up there in Wyoming?
Jackson Hole.
Jackson Hole, you know, this is,
Aspen, Colorado.
these are
Sedona, Arizona.
Park City and
Old
different things like that.
Sacramento. I mean, there's lots of communities
Park
that,
City
that
and-
do that kind of criteria, and they
Right.
really narrow the developments.
Right, they're attracting people as opposed to just having a store there, you know, that's
Right.
what, if we're gonna have, all these campgrounds here, we might as well attract them and keep them here and spend some money.
Get their money, yeah.
Really, yeah.
Anyway, we have some, cookies up here, please take, have one and take one home.
I will.
I'll take one, I'll take one over. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for coming.
Yeah, I
Oh, what's our boys up to?
5 to 6.
Oh my gosh.
And it has all the streets on it.